So hello everybody, this is Bhante Joe here, and I'm just here at a lookout point near Ella Rock. It's very beautiful, and thought to record a short Awada for the internet. So I thought that maybe we could just start with a little meditation, so we can lean forward a bit and arch the spine, and look about 3 feet in front, and close our eyes. And can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, wishing may all beings to my right be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings to my right be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side and our left hand side. May all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings to my right and my left be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, and in front. May all beings to my right, my left, and in front be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, in all 4 directions. May all beings in all 4 directions be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, and above. May all beings in all 4 directions and above be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can spread thoughts of goodwill to our right hand side, our left hand side, in front, behind, above, below, all around in every direction everywhere. May all beings all around in every direction everywhere be happy and at ease. May they put in place the causes necessary to be happy and at ease. And we can make the mind infinite, can make it unbounded, all the way to the ends of the universe and beyond, in every dimension. May all beings all around everywhere be happy and at ease. And before we finish meditating, can spend some time contemplating impermanence, how everything that arises is subject to ceasing, It's not me. It's not mine. To cling to it causes suffering. And can open our eyes and do a short Ovada for the internet. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. So hope that everybody's keeping well wherever it might be, and have come down here to the Ella area with another monastic, headed out on a bit of a, kind of joking, called it a barika, a bus tour. So this area, I was saying, this area in Ella is probably, in a country of very beautiful areas, this is maybe the most beautiful area that I've found. In particular, this spot here is quite beautiful. It has a really stunning view. And so it's interesting when the Buddha describes monks going into the wilderness and recommends them to go into the wilderness. It's one of the causes for non-decline of the Buddhist religion after the Buddha dies, is that monks delight in dwelling in the forest, or are devoted to dwelling in the forest. And also we have these set of poems from Mahakassapa, who was considered to be the father of the Sangha after the Buddha and Sariputta and Mahamoggallana passed away. And these poems are actually some of the earliest examples of what they call wilderness poetry. It's kind of wilderness poetry, basically extolling the beauties of nature. It's kind of it talks about covered over with vines, just paraphrasing here, and frequented by herds of elephants. These rocky crags refresh me. It's kind of covered with Indipagopa insects, I think. Kind of with many clouds. He describes these clouds in very beautiful language. I mean, he was the kind of most ascetic monk. So nature has these kind of very beautiful aspects to it. It has beautiful views to it. It has it has elements of it that are sometimes stunning and sometimes inspiring. And so that's one portion of the Buddha's teachings. There's another portion of the Buddha's teachings which recommends this kind of restraint of the senses, not kind of having one's eyes go out and basically take a feast and start to delight too much in the beauties of the world. And kind of one goes out and starts to take delight in the beauty of a beautiful view, then of course it causes one to be unhappy when this view isn't available. And also kind of tends to lean one's mind out towards the senses so that it becomes more shaky whenever something impinges on the senses. So like most of the things in the Buddhist teachings, monks going into the forest, into nature, it's something that he recommends them to do, but to do with a purpose and to do with skill. So was talking with my monastic companion here, mentioned that when I was staying at one monastery, they had these very inspiring standards. The monks very rare. They talked to each other very briefly. It's kind of a very silent monastery, and the monks they would speak to each other a little, and they would kind of go at their duties, speaking very little. So we went on a trip once. I went on a trip with one monk into the wilderness, and they had these really lovely standards. So basically, I was always kind of striking up a conversation, or didn't really know the proper way to behave. And later I learned, okay, that's not the thing to do. So we would kind of go into the wilderness together in quiet and find these. We would go together as a group, but then after we went to the wilderness as a group, we would separate and try to find kind of our own isolated places. The ideal was to find these places and practice meditation. And then sometimes they would have a tea at 5. In other camping trips, they'd have a tea at 5. On that particular one, we actually didn't have a tea. We just kind of stayed on our own. And so this kind of mirrors the way that the Buddha and his monks lived. They would have this kind of daily abiding. They would go into the forest sometimes, or they would have some other place where they would basically spend the day practicing meditation. And then sometimes you hear about them emerging from their dwellings or their days abiding and meeting, sometimes in a meeting hall or other places, and discussing the Dhamma at times after that, sometimes in the evening. So I felt the standard was very inspiring. It kind of it mirrored what the Buddha and his close disciples did at their time. And it was something quite lovely, because our purpose in going into the wilderness wasn't so much to have like an adventure together. It was to go into the wilderness to find solitude. And so this is one of the things that one can find in the wilderness. This is one of the purposes for going, is because almost everything one looks at in the wilderness, it's not something that will necessarily lead one's mind on towards more sensuality. There are these kind of beautiful groves of trees and beautiful, sometimes beautiful views. Sometimes there's these places in the wilderness that are just so isolated and have these features that are just stunning. And it's a little bit inspiring. So when one goes into the wilderness, one goes in there with this intention: I'm going to try to find places of solitude. And when one directs one's sights or hearing or whatever it might be into the wilderness, if there's a place that's very beautiful, one wants to take that beauty and use it as an inspiration to practice. The beautiful things that one sees in a wilderness are different than, say, the beautiful things one might see on a road. Because the beautiful things in a wilderness, if one kind of focuses on them, it can make one's mind quiet. It's kind of similar to if one goes and sees like a very inspiring chaitya and kind of looks at the chaitya. Sometimes these feelings of inspiration can come up, and kind of that image itself can help to quiet the mind, can be an aid and a support to meditation. So like everything in the Buddha's teachings, going into the wilderness is something that has to be done with a certain level of skill and a certain level of care. And kind of one can find these beautiful sights. The most strict monk in the Buddha's time, actually, the most strict monk we can say in this Buddha's dispensation, Venerable Mahakassapa, has some of the most stunning and beautiful wilderness poetry. And we can also go into the wilderness. It can be very adventuresome, kind of climbing these cliffs, and sometimes one might have the opportunity to stay overnight in areas where there's wild animals. But all of these things actually have a higher purpose, and kind of going into these places where there's quite a lot of solitude, quite a lot of danger, it helps focus one's mind in on one's meditation practice. Because these dangerous things, they could kill one. So it's very helpful to maintain kind of mindfulness of death. I could die tonight. This could be my last night. So I should put forth effort. It also tends to make one's mind very careful, because if one's walking, one could step on a snake. If one isn't careful about the sounds and the sights one hears, one might come across a very dangerous animal. Or there might be a very dangerous animal around the bend that one isn't paying attention to. So one has to be much more careful. Also, one has to be very careful with one's possessions, because if one leaves something in the wilderness, it's very difficult to find sometimes. Sometimes one might be traveling through some kind of forest, and it's hours into the forest. If something falls out of your bag, or out of one's bag, then it's very difficult to find. So when one takes on these practices or goes to places of solitude, goes to the wilderness, looks at the beauties of the wilderness, one can do it with the proper intention, this kind of intention to grow in the Dhamma. The kind of solitude in the wilderness has a purpose to it. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used well or it can be used poorly. The kind of beauties of the wilderness have a purpose to them in the Buddha's dispensation. They can be a tool, and like any tool, it can be used well or it can be used poorly. And as far as the results of this, each person has to be the judge of this themselves. They have to judge their own mind. They have to judge their own practice to see if the way that they're entering into the forest, staying there and practicing there is helping. If it's something that's making their meditation progress. If it's something that's making their mind more and more dispassionate. If it's something that makes their mind more and more inclined towards solitude. If it's something that makes their mind more and more peaceful, then one knows one's using it well. One knows one's on the right track. So the Buddha recommended to come to places that can be very inspiring, can be very beautiful. Sometimes these places have an energy to them that can make one's meditation much easier, or easier anyway. But when one comes to them, one can come with this attitude and this discernment that the Buddha recommends, so that one can use one's time in the forest, use one's time in nature, use one's time in places of beauty and inspiration to the best effect, to the effect so that one trains one's mind towards dispassion for the sake of the higher goal. Okay, so I think leave that for reflection, and wishing everybody all the blessings of Dhamma practice.